Let's talk about tinctures today. What is a tincture? What's the best way to take it? What does it do? And why would I choose it over capsules? Very simply put, a tincture is an herb that has been extracted in alcohol. There's many different ways to do that. Here at Cedar Hill Homestead, I like to use organic cane alcohol because people with gluten intolerances can drink it. I also like to use fresh herbs as often as possible, and I do a combination of extraction method depending on what plant I'm working with. So let's get into the best ways to take tinctures. Very simply put, you're gonna grab this pipette up, and this right here would be a full dropper. People are often confused because it doesn't pull it all the way to the top. This is still considered a full dropper. The absolute best way to take your tinctures is directly under the tongue, like so, and to hold it there for several seconds. I always tell people as long as you can, or around 30 seconds. And then yes, you will swallow. Some people do not like the taste of alcohol, understandably, and some of our tinctures have higher percentages of alcohol than others and are therefore a little more difficult to take. If you cannot stand the taste, I understand. Just please do not dilute your dropper in a full glass of water. The best thing to do is to take a very small shot of water or juice, put your dropper in there, swish it around your mouth for a second, and then swallow. Here's the reason why. We want these tinctures to enter the bloodstream as undiluted as possible. When we swallow a tincture by putting it in a large amount of water, it has to go through your entire digestive system before it enters your bloodstream. When you are able to put it around under the tongue or kind of swish it around the mouth, some of it is able to enter the bloodstream before going through the digestive system. So that is always going to be the best way to take tinctures. Now, if you are taking a bitters specifically, we make a bitters called the Bitter Beginning. There's plenty of other herbalists out there that make different types of bitters. Bitters need to be taken on top of the tongue. Now, your bottle of bitters will say this, and if you're buying directly from an apothecary or an herbalist, they will also tell you this. The reason being, how bitters work is by activating the bitter stimuli, by tasting them with your taste buds. They're then sending signals to the brain that excrete saliva and help to release mucus and jumpstart those digestive juices. Bitters are so cool, but that's one tincture that's really good on top of the tongue. Stomach Mend does incorporate some bitter herbs. Really anything for the stomach and for digestion that you're taking in a tincture, there will be benefits from tasting that tincture as well as putting it under the tongue. You don't have to take Stomach Mend directly on top of the tongue, but it is pretty delicious, and just like giving it a little taste before swallowing it will help to relieve those stomach aches a bit sooner. Now, why take a tincture over a capsule? So to me, a capsule, we don't know how long those herbs were dried before they were encapsulated. We don't know how long those herbs were dried in a warehouse before another company bought them to formulate them, to then sit in a formula before being encapsulated, and then sit on a shelf before you buy those. So those herbs are often pretty old, lacking color, lacking flavor. We just learned why flavor is important, and we just don't know what else is in there. There could be filler in there. Yes, a lot of capsule companies do studies, but plenty of them don't. We don't know what else is in there, how much of it is in there. With tinctures, we know that we are getting the freshest extraction possible, especially if it is being made by an herbalist like me, who you can kind of see our methods on here. And you're able to really preserve the freshness of those herbs with the alcohol. I also like that you can taste when the herbs are starting to break down in the alcohol. People often ask me, how long is a tincture good for? And technically forever. Like, we have found tinctures buried with mummies. They last forever. There's still herbs that we can test for in those tinctures. However, if you're taking an herbal tincture for an ailment, you likely want to be taking something as potent as possible. So I personally toss my tinctures after a year. Now, if you have a tincture that you've had for a couple years, and let's say you want to give it to a child or a pet, that's great. It's already a little bit diluted, it's already less potent, so that's great. But I personally can taste it. If there's a tincture that you take regularly, like Stomach Mend for me, and plenty of others, Habituate, Comfort, Brain Fog, Rest in Peace, You can taste when that tincture is starting to become less potent. You can taste it like the alcohol is less strong due to evaporation. You can get less of that kind of plant flavor. You just can tell, especially if you take it often. So I like that about it too. We can really gauge the freshness. We can gauge when we need to re-up on our bottles. I absolutely love tinctures. I think they are highly effective. I think they are amazing for any sort of ailment of the organs or things that we want to affect the bloodstream. I recommend teas if we are trying to flush something out of the body, if we need those herbs to specifically pass through the urethra, like for a bladder infection, and plenty of other times. Cleansing, detox, the liver, kidneys, etc. If we want it to touch the throat, if we want to line the stomach, we'll get into that in another video. That's tinctures.